CJ Flyer back with the fire another YouTube video. The 2024-2025 NBA season awards. We're here about a week before the start of the regular season, and I figure it is probably the best time to do all of the predictions for the upcoming season. We've already done the Eastern Conference standings, the Western Conference standings, and now I'm going to predict the end of regular season awards. Starting off, of course, with the MVP award. I made a video earlier this year about how I thought it was ridiculous, the narrative around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I wasn't calling him a bad player. He's a good player. But just look at the stats. Just look at the stats alone and tell me this isn't ridiculous that Shai's getting much more first place votes than Luka. Anyways, I have a whole video kind of diving into all the details about it and how ridiculous the narrative is. Also talking about how he's widely broadcast as this, younger player when Luka's a year younger than him. I don't know. It's insane to me. I think people forgot that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was in the league for a couple years before he was even relevant on mainstream. He played for the Clippers for a year, not really a household name. I don't know. Anyways, I have FanDuel Sportsbook pulled up here. This video is not sponsored by them. I have no affiliation with them. In fact, I can't even legally use them in the state of Texas here. So I'm just using this merely as a starting point for, where people think players are ranked for the upcoming season awards at this point in time, and just to give kind of a list of names to compare to as I give my predictions for the awards. So that's why we have this here, okay? Anyways, this is the list of last year's awards, and I already gave my spiel just now about SGA being in second place. I thought it should have been Jokic 1A, Luka 1B. And in this upcoming season, at this point, I just kind of toss my hands in the air with some of these awards. With the MVP, clearly there has to be some kind of narrative around the player. And if the Mavericks end up being in anywhere in the top 2 to top 4 range in the West by the end of the season, this is giving me vibes of Jokic getting that MVP award the year after he won the championship. Yes, the Mavericks didn't win the championship, but for all of you that forgot or don't remember, Jokic, he missed out on an MVP award because there was this narrative around Embiid and kind of like how he deserves one. Not to say that he's not one of the best players that season, but Jokic, in my opinion, clearly should have won the MVP that year. And the media and manipulation and the narrative, getting tossed around. And anyways, yeah. So this is kind of how I feel. What's going to happen this season is, the narrative just wasn't there for Luka last year. There was a heavy narrative for Shai leading this young OKC team to the 1 seed in the West kind of deal. And I think it's going to flip this year. I think since the Mavs made the finals last year, and the Mavs, I think, have the potential to finish with an even better record than they did last year, if not the same. I think they're a 50-win team this year. I am of the belief that Luka is going to get the upper edge there. Now, the only part that's going to hold him back is, if Jokic comes out swinging once again, but I'm sure there's some voter fatigue there as well. So I'm going with Luka, and I'm a little bit biased, of course, as a Mavs fan. I'm not even going to deny that. But yeah, I have Luka as my MVP. As far as second place, again, it really just depends how the Nuggets perform. I do have a feeling that it'll be Shai at number 2 and Jokic at number 3, even though I feel like Jokic probably deserves to be 1 or 2 again this upcoming season. But there's not really a whole lot of logic with voting for some of these awards. So my prediction's Luka at number 1. Now, Rookie of the Year. Do I even need to talk about this? If you've watched the Zach Edey videos on this channel, you know how I feel. I'm not even... Okay, I guess I'll dive into it a little bit. Best rookie he's not necessarily the most talented player here on this list, but he is in the best position to show out in front of mainstream media, in front of everyone this season. It's possible that Reed Sheppard ends up having a better career, ends up being a better player, but he's on a team with a lot of talent and players at his position. Zach Edey is likely the best center on the Grizzlies, unless you want to, put Jaren Jackson Jr. at the center, then yes. But his primary position is more power forward, right? So Zach Edey is likely going to be the best center on his team this year because the Grizzlies don't have a lot of depth at the center position. And that right there already gives him a huge advantage over anyone else on this list. So I give Zach Edey the Rookie of the Year award here. I believe he's going to win it. Defensive Player of the Year. This one is very interesting because, again, these awards, they revolve around narrative. Rudy Gobert won the award again last year, and oh my goodness, the narrative around him has been nothing short of just, it's, I would hate to be Rudy Gobert at this moment. If I were to be any NBA player, I would hate to be Rudy Gobert right now because I feel bad, man. I don't think he's that bad of a player. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed Luka, doing that step back move on him for the game-winning three. But Rudy Gobert's not a bad defensive player, no matter what anyone tells you. He's not the best perimeter defender in the world, but he's a good defender. He's a good defensive player. He's a good team defense player, if you will. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are not going to see it that way. And that narrative of him being one of the better defenders in the league, it started to dwindle a little bit. And if you look at the stats alone, steals and blocks, again, that doesn't really tell you the whole story as far as who's the best defensive player. But yeah, Wemby got more blocks, more steals per game than Rudy Gobert last year. And I just don't see Gobert winning it this year. I really don't. It just doesn't matter what he does. I don't think he's going to win it. And there's a potential that Naz Reid gets the start over Gobert for some of those games this year, I think. I really think that's a possibility. We'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I have Wembanyama as my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I just don't see. The narrative is going to be so strong around him. The Spurs team, they might not be a play-in team. They possibly might be, but they're not going to be one of the top teams in the West, but they'll be better than they were last year, and I think Wembanyama takes the cake. And I think having a player like Chris Paul on your team is really going to bring more awareness to Wembanyama's game based on the way Chris Paul plays in a team setting. So, yeah, I give this one to Wembanyama. And then going on to the more difficult awards to predict, I believe, the most improved player. I remember it was like 2016, 2015, I think, that people were predicting, like a lot of people were predicting Otto Porter Jr. to win the award, and then he just fell off the face of the earth. And after that season, I don't think anyone's really talked about him at all. I mean, so it's a really difficult award to predict. I see that the betting odds here, they got Wemby at number 1. I really don't understand that. Again, and this goes back to like narrative. I would think that most improved would mean that, it's the biggest leap in improvement that was made, right? Like a bench player to a starter, as opposed to an all-star player to a better all-star player. Or, all-star to MVP would make sense, as like a most improved candidate. But this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Wembanyama last year, he averaged over 20 points per game, more than 10 rebounds per game, 3.5 blocks and a steal. He's probably going to improve this upcoming season, but realistically, is he going to get 6 blocks per game? Is he going to get 20 rebounds per game? Is he going to get 30-plus points per game? As far as his improvement, I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference from rookie year to second year as compared to the potential for someone like Jonathan Kuminga to improve, or really anyone on the Warriors to make that leap now that Klay Thompson's not on the team. Like Moses Moody, or who's the other player on their team? I got to look down the list. Sure, yeah, here he is, Brandon. He's on the list. Look, I just don't understand why odds are so high for Wembanyama. I don't understand why there's even a narrative there. But look, I mean, that's just how these things go. If I had to pick, honestly, I think Josh Giddey's a pretty funny one too. I would not pick Wembanyama or Josh Giddey. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the players here that I've been looking at. At first, I was thinking about Tyus Jones. Now, Tyus Jones, I'm actually surprised didn't enter the most improved list last year. He's not anywhere to be seen. If we go to the list of most improved players, we have Tyrese Maxey. That one, he won the award. That makes sense. Kobe White makes sense. Şengün, Jalen Williams, Jalen Brunson. You keep looking at these names. Why were people voting for Duncan Robinson? I don't understand that one. But look, anyways, going back, Tyus Jones. Again, this is why I'm like, felt like he could have been on the list at least, or at least gotten a third place vote or something. I mean, he went from, I guess it's more like a span over 2 seasons than 1 season. Maybe that's why. And he went from a playoff team, a contending team, to a tanking team. So maybe that's what people saw as like, well, it's good stats on a bad team kind of deal. He averaged the most points of his career last year at 12 points per game. Averaged the most assists per game in his career, 7 assists per game. He's now going to a team in the Phoenix Suns that is a playoff team. I don't know if some people might say contender because of the talent that's on that roster. I would not. But they are a good quality team. They're going to be in the spotlight in the media. And Tyus Jones, I believe, is the only true point guard on that team. Let's go ahead and take a look at Phoenix's roster here at the depth chart. Where are we at? Phoenix. Yeah, point guard 2, Devin Booker. Point guard 3. Okay, so Monte Morris is on the team. But he's not even going to be, according to this depth chart, the first or second option. I mean, Tyus Jones is going to get most of the minutes at the point guard position. So I see him as a candidate, as maybe being like I don't know how much higher his points per game could really get. I could see him getting 10 plus assists per game this year, just because of the situation he's in. Now, I'm just this is like honorable mention. I'm not saying Tyus Jones wins most improved this year. This is who I believe wins most improved. Scottie Barnes. He spent half the season last year with Pascal Siakam, and the second half of the season he was kind of on his own. So, well, I guess not on his own. They got Emmanuel Quickley, they got R.J. Barrett on the team. I think this is the year that Scottie Barnes will finally crack that 20-point per game mark. I mean, you could argue he already did at 19.9 points per game, but I think he'll get mid-20s, and I think he's got the potential to really bump up his stats. So, and I get it. Like, he's already got 8 rebounds per game, 6 assists. How much more can he actually improve in the stats column? But we all know there's a narrative to it, and if the Toronto Raptors surprise some people and get somewhere beyond the play-in, maybe, I just see that there's potential for him. A 3-point percentage, if that improves. He took more threes per game last year. I don't know. I personally think Scottie Barnes could be that guy. And if we look at the list here, Scottie Barnes is what is this, like 10th on the list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 11th on the list. So I'm not completely insane for making this pick. And again, this one's kind of hard to predict. But yeah, I have Scottie Barnes as my pick. Oh, there's Tyus Jones way down the list. The wild card would be someone like Ben Simmons. Can we really say Ben Simmons is most improved? I mean, I guess it's year over year. He was previously All-NBA, All-Star, and then he kind of, hit a rut, and now he's back. And if he gets good numbers, does that qualify him for, I mean, he's towards the bottom of the list here. Does that qualify him for most improved? I'm not sure. Anyways, moving on to the next award, another one that's really difficult to predict. Because with the way injuries play out and whatnot and trades, we just don't know what's going to happen. But 6th man of the year. Last year, I believe it was Malik Monk that won the award. Let's go ahead. Yes. Oh, no, sorry. Naz Reid. Oh, my goodness. How could I? Of course. How could I forget? Naz Reid won. It was a close battle. Yeah, Malik Monk was 2nd place. So that's those are like the top 2, and I think going into this season, those are the top 2 again for odds. Of course, Dante DiVincenzo now being on the Timberwolves and him likely coming off the bench more often than not, with Anthony Edwards starting at the 2. He'd be a solid pick as well. I'm I'm leaning towards Malik Monk. If we go ahead and look at Sacramento's depth chart here, yeah, so Keon Ellis is currently the starter, I suppose. They also got Kevin Herter on the team, and then you got Malik Monk, who can fill in at the 2 or the 3. So yeah, with DeRozan starting at the 3, I think it's likely that Malik Monk will be coming off the bench more often than not. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet, to be honest. Malik Monk for Sixth Man of the Year. I don't really have a wild card pick for this one outside of, I guess, once again, Ben Simmons. I see Russell Westbrook's on this list. That's pretty interesting. If you really think Russell Westbrook's going to have a breakout season, that would be a good pick. And then really, again, just anyone on the Warriors. I feel like with Klay Thompson being out, that leaves the door wide open for a lot of guys. Another wild card pick, I guess, would be Derek Lively. I see Daniel Gafford down here. Where's Lively? Is Lively not even on the list? That actually surprises me because Gafford is probably going to start. I mean they're going to split games. There's going to be games where one of them starts and then the other one sits and vice versa. I'm kind of surprised Lively's not on this list. But anyways, there you go. So yeah, we're picking Malik Monk for Sixth Man of the Year. Coach of the Year, again, this is also one that's hard to predict because I think what usually ends up happening is they don't necessarily pick the best coach. They just pick the coach of one of the top teams. So I'm gonna throw in a haymaker here. I'm gonna surprise some people. I'm gonna pick Taylor Jenkins for the Grizzlies. First of all, I don't know why Willie Green's up this high. The Pelicans, I don't even have them making the play-in. Spoiler, if you haven't seen my Western Conference predictions, I don't have any faith in the Pelicans. Why are you starting Herb Jones at center? That already should disqualify Willie Green from Coach of the Year. I don't know why he's up this high on the odds list. But yeah, I'd have Taylor Jenkins at 1, Tom Thibodeau at 2. But of course, if the Grizzlies don't even make the play in the playoffs, that's obviously going to be a bad prediction. But I'm picking Taylor Jenkins as my Coach of the Year. Clutch Player of the Year, I don't even know what this means. Does anyone know how you're supposed to pick Clutch Player of the Year? Is it based on clutch time stats? Does anyone actually know? Or do we just pick players that have the best, coolest looking game winners throughout the season? I have no idea. I think last year Curry won it, right? Yeah, Curry won it last year. DeMar DeRozan was second. Okay. Shea was third. Luka's on this list. I mean, I don't know. Kyrie's on this list probably because of that left-handed floater over Jokic during the regular season when they won at home against the Nuggets. I don't know. Could someone tell me in the comments if you know? I have no idea. And just looking at this list of players, it's basically just all the superstars in the league that are known to ISO and make big buckets at the end of games. In no particular order, as far as I can tell. Jordan Poole's on this list for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. So yeah, if I had to pick, I'm just gonna be biased and pick Luka. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This Clutch Player of the Year is such a weird award, but we'll take Luka just cause. And then for finals, we already have betting for finals MVP. We don't even know who's making the final. We're not going with that. No. All right. Move beyond that. They also have the NBA Cup Tournament MVP, which we don't have a clue because we don't know which teams are going to make it that far. So I'm not going to predict those either. The only thing left to predict would be All NBA, and I think I'll make that a separate video. To be honest, All NBA is something that we should try to predict, I believe, towards the end of the regular season. Right now, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's based on nothing. It's just based on our assumptions of what's going to happen throughout the season. But these initial end-of-year awards, I like to predict. We'll predict them again towards the end of the regular season before they're announced. So this is just like our preseason look at them. And then we'll do a second round of see what we think of our past predictions, and then see if we want to make any adjustments to those. So let me know in the comments if you agree with these, who you think your picks are for the end of season awards, and click one of the 2 videos on your screen right now for some more NBA regular season predictions.